Hello and welcome to round 3 of the British GT Championship here at Snetterton. The weather has changed, thank God, because last night there was a hell of a storm. But do you know what? I don't think these teams have actually had much running in this dry weather. So it's also going to be a bit of a test session for the teams as well, because most of, as you all know, from the UK and even Europe, the weather's been really cold. We've had loads of snow. So it's going to be a bit of a test session for them. We've got 2 races, 2 one-hour races around this just under 3-mile circuit. Beautiful circuit, beautiful conditions, and I just can't wait in a minute to join Bruce Jones, who's my co-commentator, and I'll be joining him a little bit later in our little booth just opposite the start-finish line, and looking forward to that. So Bruce.
Well, Charlie, thanks very much. Great to see you down on the grid. I'm sure you're going to go and grab a few interviews. A couple of Aston Martins just behind you, but what a grid of cars. 33 cars coming out to play. I can see Nicky T. Why don't you grab Nicky? He's just behind you. He's got a beard. His car is starting on pole position.
And we talked about him earlier, didn't we? Right, let's have a chat with him. I will slowly intervene and just give him a little squeeze of the...
Hey, man.
How you doing, Nicky? Are you okay, Bruce? Are we cool to chat?
Nicky's always a game for an interview. There he is. Go for it.
There he is. There we go. So, front row. How cool's that?
Yeah, it looks good. Good view from here. So yeah, I think Mark is a little bit nervous, so I leave him alone. But yeah, it's good. Both races, P1. Let's hope it sticks this way. Yeah, not so much to say. Let's get on with it.
Well, we can't because no one's on the grid yet properly. But yeah, I know. Typical racing driver, impatient. Yeah, so 2 one-hour races. What's the different strategy when you've normally done 2-hour races? So what's the difference? How are you playing it as a team and as a driver pairing?
There's absolutely no plan. We just drive as fast as we can and hope for the best. That the baby's doing its job. I think we improved. Already for warm-up we had a little bit of troubles with the setup, but I think we tweaked it a little bit because the tire wear is tremendous here, especially with the Aston. The rear tires are going off so quickly, so I hope we will keep the track position, have a good pit stop, and then we can take it from there on.
Okay, one quick question. It's quite a warm day. How hot does it get in these cars, and how much fluid do you think you actually lose from a sweat point of view if you were to do, in theory, the whole hour?
I don't know, between 1 and 100 liters. I don't know. It's a lot, isn't it? It's quite hard work. Those nice old school tracks here that gives you really a hard time out there. Again, especially when the tires goes off. It's like driving with rain tires and yeah.
And very quickly, what's your favourite corner here at Snetterton?
Let's take the last one, a long right sweeping.
Coram.
Yeah, exactly. That's a long right-hander, really quick. Keep it tight, small drift, and then into the last corner.
Cool, lovely. Good luck. Well done, and enjoy. Okay, so there we go. Front row. Let's head down the grid a little bit. We've got Flick Hay. Quick word with Phil Keane, very quickly. Very quick word with Phil. Phil, good to see you. Second row. What happened?
Well, John did a good job yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, we did the best with what we had. Unfortunately, you know, we've got a bit more weight for here. So, you know, I think we're in a good place. We'll just see what our race pace is like and stay out of trouble and score some points.
Cool. So, obviously, John's starting. You're second. Yeah. Any strategy for tyres and everything for race 2, or?
No, we'll just go as fast as we can and see what the race throws at us.
Cool. Well, I wish you all the best.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bruce, back to you, dude, because I'm going to find some more culprits that I can talk to and have a bit of fun with them.
Charlie,
so over to you.
Charlie, it's a long grid. I want you all the way down to the back. But interesting, Nicky Team giving away the fact that the Aston Martins, he reckons, eat their tyres. That could be quite something. It is a warm day. There is a bit of a breeze. In fact, you can see the heat haze down around the back of the circuit. But worth reiterating, 2 races today, shorter than normal, 2 one-hour races. And interesting, Phil Keane said exactly the same. Just go for it and see what can happen. And if you're new to the British GT Championship on a race day when you have 2 races, driver 1 starts driver 1 and then changes to driver 2 at the pit stop and vice versa in the second race. So Nicky Team will be starting race 2 in the car that will again be on pole position, that number 11 Aston Martin from TF Sport, and Phil Keane will be starting race 2 in the Barwell Lamborghini. Wonderful sight. The 11 cars in GT3 and the 22 in GT4. They don't only just about fit on the start-finish straight. You can see the final corner in the background there, which is Murray's, the little kink onto the start-finish straight. But Charlie Butler-Henderson has been incredibly busy. He's moved down the grid and he's caught another interview.
Flick, you're doing a pretty blooming good job. I'm impressed. I thought my sister was quick, but you're even quicker than she is. So tell me, what's it like to drive this beast around Snetterton?
I love the car for one, and Snet I've always enjoyed racing at. It's just a circuit I enjoy, so fingers crossed we get a good result.
Yeah. Most challenging corner?
Tricky. There's a few, probably turn 2, just the middle sector really. That's the trickiest of them all.
And you haven't had much running in this sort of warm conditions because we've had terrible weather in the UK. Inside the car, talk us through it a little bit so we can understand what it's like.
Very hot, very loud. It's got no AC, so it gets a bit warm. But it's nice to have a dry weekend when the sun's out, everyone's smiling, and the spectators enjoy it. So that's the main thing.
Cool. No air conditioning. Fussy racing driver already. Anyway, good luck. Best of luck. Nice to meet you. So there you go. Heard it pretty much there. You've got drivers there hugging each other and all that sort of stuff. It's all good fun. Who else do you want me to talk to, Bruce? Who else shall I talk to?
Well, I think you should head down towards the GT4 front runners. You've got a couple of bends on the front row and that look very promising indeed. Tuck and green.
And they are just here. I'm
Fantastic.
just going to... Right then, so, excuse me guys. Sorry to butt in. So, oh, look at that. A trained racing driver. He's taken the harness off and everything. Right, Ben. Easy to know because you're both called Ben. You're quite a lot quicker than anyone else in the GT4 grid. Does that feel good?
Yeah, it feels really good. I was quite surprised, to be honest, because we know we've got some quick guys behind us. I'm expecting Callum to be quite fiery in that Ginetta, but we know we've got a bit more power down the straight, so hopefully I can pull away after a lap or two.
So was it just a one-off qualifying lap, or do you think you've got a good race pace?
Yeah, we've worked on a race setup as well, so we changed it very slightly, but yeah, we're feeling confident.
Good. You enjoying it?
Yeah, absolutely loving it. First year in British GT, it's the highest profile racing that I've ever done, so yeah, absolutely loving it.
Good. Well, thank you for your time. Thanks for taking the harness off, and good luck. Wish you all the best. Thank you. Right, Bruce, I've got to get off the grid now, so I'm going to see you back in the commentary box in about 1 minute time. But let's enjoy the race and let's have some fun.
Absolutely. Well done, Charlie. Great job down on the grid, and very good to see those new faces. Ben Tuck was racing Mazda MX-5s not long ago, Caterham Supersports, and now relishing life in GT4, a very competitive class. In fact, for one of the two races, the top, I think, 11 runners covered by a second, but he's out front by half a second in the Century Motorsport BMW. He's sharing with Ben Green, and they're only 10th in the championship. It's been quite topsy-turvy, both in GT3 and GT4 so far this year, but plenty to play for. And one other little factor I can throw into the mix is the fact that if you succeed in a race, you tend to get, the first three finishers get a time penalty added to their pit stops. They have to stay stationary for longer, and if you win, you get a 10-second penalty. The car that's starting behind them, the HHC Motorsport Ginetta of Callum Poynton and Patrick Matthieson, has got 10 seconds extra to stand. Still the car starting third on the grid. The Wilmore Matt Jones Academy Motorsport Aston Martin has got 5 seconds, so it's a big advantage for that Century Motorsport duo in GT4. But here is our front row of the grid. Cars look similar, yes, not different livery, sure, but it's the TF Sport Aston Martin Vantage V12. Mark Farmer will start that. Graham Davidson alongside in number 47. That's from Jetstream Motorsport, and that's was set for a good grid position for race 2, but unfortunately Maxime Martin didn't do the right number of laps, or the minimum number of laps, so that has moved to the back for race 2. But this is race 1. Race 2 is this afternoon. We can wait for that, but cars look absolutely sensational at the front of the grid. Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini, we heard from Phil Keane. He's starting, his teammate John Minshaw starts third on the grid. Rick Parfitt Jr., last year's champion, this year new teammate in Ryan Ratcliffe there. Bentley Continental is alongside. All looks clear down on the grid. There's one of the Ultratech Racing Nissans. They had a few little mechanical maladies yesterday, but I think everybody should be present out there ready to go for an hour of racing. Just to reiterate, 2 one-hour races here at Snetterton today. It is quite blowy. You can hear, in fact, the wind on some of the microphones out down there. You can hear the flags fluttering, but really a wonderful day, packed with spectators all around the circuit, and some great spectator banking from which to enjoy the action. But right now, the drivers are focusing on doing precisely what Nicky Team said, just racing as hard as you can. And Nicky effectively saying, Mark Farmer, use the tyres as much as you want. I'll cope with whatever you throw back at me. So it's a green flag wave. The formation lap has started, and with perfect timing, Charlie Butler-Henderson has made it back. Well done on the grid. Good job. It's a long way from front to back.
And do you know, it's warm out there.
Yeah.
That's why I asked so many questions about the heat, because I know it's hot in those cars.
I think you had the wrong choice of jacket, Charlie. You obviously picked one off the winter peg.
Well, you know, better than a 3-layer Nomex race suit, I suppose. But yeah, the atmosphere down on the grid as well is pretty awesome. It's really, really cool. That you've got, you know, all that money, those cars just oozing their, you know, their power, sex appeal, looks, curves, start. It's awesome down there.
Well, here's the grid, and it's Aston Martin 1 and 2 at Motorsport, 11 and 47. So Mark Farmer, Graham Davidson on the front row. John Minshaw will be relishing the start in his Lamborghini from row 2. Rick Parfitt Jr., he knows how to win a race in a Bentley. But how's the pairing? Andrew Howard and Turner, a hot day for ice cream. So Beach Dean Motorsport boss Andrew Howard be very happy indeed. Darren Turner, been there, seen it, done it. And Jordan Witt, last minute sub for the Nissan crew, will be starting from 6th. And Sam DeHaan learning his craft from 7th, so he's got a great teammate there in Johnny Cocker. Then the second of the Bentleys in 8th. Flick Hague, you talked to her, down in 9th. And then we're getting down. Johnston is 10th, the penultimate car in the GT3 class. And championship leader Lee Mole, a bit of a rotten time in both qualifying sessions, maybe the warmer conditions, not used to them so much. His Mercedes last in the GT3 class. Pole for GT4 by nearly half a second. Very impressive from Benz, Tuck and Green, and then HHC Motorsport with their Ginetta. And then an Aston Martin. Yes, again, they go well, these Vantages. This is the V8 because it's in the GT4 class. Moore and Nickel Jones, they certainly know what they're doing. And the youngest ever starter in British GT racing, Tom Canning, will be starting 4th in GT4. Very, very impressive newcomer in the Stellar Motorsport Toyota GT86. So great mix of drivers the whole way down. And you get down to Ballon and Barnicot. They're sort of 3rd in the GT4 class, but look, they're down in about 9th position in the class. It's been a real jumble, and it's so super close. And worth pointing out, 33 runners in the field. We were chatting this morning before we went on air. When the fastest of the GT3 runners comes onto the tail of the GT4 runners, they're going to be having their own battle. And they've got to let them through, but trying to do so without losing the momentum that could cost them 2-3 positions in their own little fight. But they'll see the blue flags. When they get waved, they've got to pull over and let the GT3 chargers come through. But look, 33 runners in all. Very, very competitive field. People still pouring over the bridge into the circuit to come and spectate here, because these cars look brilliant. You said the word sexy. They are.
They sound good. They look good. And just, you know, look at them all bunching up there. It's just like millions of brake horsepower just waiting to be unleashed under that safety car before it just goes wallop, you know. And just interviewing the pole setter as well. Just, you know, I just want to get on with it. I'm like, okay, but I have a job to do. I've still got to interview you because he wanted to get on with the race. And I'm like,
but that's
typical racing driver.
He's
impatient.
Always on the balls. Oh dear, so the 68 GT4 is in the pits, so that isn't according to doctor's orders. That was, I just mentioned Tom Canning, that's his car. That could be him standing alongside it. No, actually, I think they're Century Motorsport BMW drivers alongside. So,
here we go.
Not the greatest start for them, but let's focus. The 11 GT3 runners at the front, and then now we know 21 GT4 runners in behind. Aston Martin's 1st and 2nd on the grid. The pole starter, Mark Farmer, on the left in the blue car from TF Sport, and alongside Graham Davidson, the Jetstream Motorsport example. While those lights are red, they cannot go. Now, we're underway, and it's a very good start from pole position. As the Aston Martins retain their positions, and grid order behind the Lamborghini of Minshaw, holding off Rick Parfitt Jr., and then Andrew Howard in the wonderfully liveried Beach Dean Motorsport Aston Martin behind
us. Lamborghini.
That's the Lamborghini, that's Sam DeHaan.
Yeah.
So he's dropped to the back of the GT3 class. In fact, he's fallen behind the GT4 front runners, near contact up at the hairpin and running very, very wide indeed. Safety car, that's about as fast as it could possibly be. So it's the exit of the first corner. Sam DeHaan went round. What we didn't see is if that set off a chain reaction behind. A very, very good start as number 7, Bentley, tries to pick his way forward again. Ian Lockey, he must have got caught out. The SC sign has gone off our screen, so maybe it was a glitch, a finger too fast. We'll be happy for that to go. But look at Ben Tuck down into Agostini, and he's obviously going to let the Bentley go, but he doesn't want to lose any momentum. There he is, sitting on the lead of the class. He's got the Sam DeHaan Lamborghini in behind. That too will pass him down the Bentley straight. But clean start from the front of the grid, from pole position by Mark Farmer. So Nicky Team, you spoke to beforehand, will be very pleased indeed. Keep the car at the front. That's what you need to do. Now a challenge for 5th position. Andrew Howard being pushed wide by Jordan Witt, who somehow was coming through, and it's cost him not 1 but 2 positions, I'm afraid. Because it looks like, I think that was Flick Hague going through as well. So driver who won the opening race, took pole for the opening race at Alton Park, making great progress. Yes, there you can see Aston Martin has moved through.
Oh, and we call this GT racing, like it's like a long endurance race. Look at them, you know, a few £100,000 worth of Skyline pushing an Aston Martin off the track, and then a Lamborghini just spinning within seconds of the first start. You know, these guys are really pushing very, very hard, and that corner, the bomb hole, is such a challenging corner. And then coming into Nicky Team's favourite corner, Coram
that carries on giving and giving, and now Championship Minshaw on Graham Davidson. He went one way, went the others up the inside. He's in the right position for when they get to Rich's into the corner. Did they touch? If not, very close. But of course, a slightly compromised entry to the corner from Minshaw. He wanted to be on a wider line, but touching the grass and the dust on the inside, fighting back, and I thought Davidson had done enough to get back into second place, but Minshaw's been around a while. He did just enough. In behind Rick Parfitt Jr., Jordan Witt, they are the top 5. Flick Haig actually went from 9th up to 6th, so very good opening lap for her, but the story is that Mark Farmer is escaping. He's got that advantage. Minshaw in second place now, Davidson in third. And how's that for a gaggle of cars? And at the back is Lee Mole, championship leader in the white Mercedes behind the 3 Aston Martins, lights flashing. He's going to be picking his way up the order. Look how well clear Ben Tuck is in the GT4 class. This is a name we might have to watch and listen for over the years. Put it on pole, kept out of trouble. As trouble was happening around him with Sam DeHaan having that spin out of Rich's. But now he's settled on. He's got clear air behind him. Hallelujah, in a GT race, that is rare.
Interviewing him on the grid, you could just tell by his eyes. He looked confident, he looked on it, and he was oozing enthusiasm, as in like he's really enjoying what he's doing rather than being all tense and stressed about it. But just awesome, that BMW. He said he's got more straight line speed than some of the Ginettas, you know.
Oh, well, it's a tale of 2 cars for the 43 for the Century Motorsport Group.
I was just about to say,
that's
it's not the car that we,
it's
the sister car.
We've got one of the Invictus Jaguars having had a spin. So on the one hand, leading GT4 by a tidy margin. On the other hand, the sister car, number 43, in the pit lane, as you have just seen. Now, those that had a little stumble in GT3 starting to pick up their way up the order, but hasn't had a stumble, but gained a position, is Jordan Witt in that red Nissan. Here is the GT4 class leader. Has got someone not too far behind. It's the Academy Motorsport Aston Martin, I think. So let's have a quick look. Yes, it's Will Moore, and he's only at the start line. He was 2 seconds down. If anything, he's starting to gain. The HHC Motorsport Ginetta just behind. Number 17 has gone for a spin, and that was, well, still is, Derek Johnston, the second of the 2 TTF Sport Aston Martins. He got it wrong down at Murray's penultimate corner, well, the last real corner of the lap, and we've seen over the years many a driver getting it wrong.
It's a challenging corner. You're coming round Coram, the car's all loaded up, and then you have to brake down into pretty much second or third gear for a sharp left-hander, and the car is wanting to go from one direction to the other, and it just goes wrong for some people. So yeah, a real shame for Johnson there. Yeah.
So very tidy start from Mark Farmer, but what we can see is John Minshaw is starting to close in that Lamborghini from Barwell Motorsport. In fact, second through to 5th, almost nose to tail, just that tiny lead at the front, 0.7 of a second on the start-finish line, and I'd suggest it's coming down. John Minshaw starting to close in the Demon Tweaks Lamborghini. Great move into Rich's to get past Graham Davidson. Rick Parfitt Jr. just sitting in behind the Team Parker Racing Bentley.
That Lamborghini is really coming to its own, you know. Mark Lemmer sets up a pretty good car with Barwell Motorsport. They know what they're doing. You know, Lamborghini might take longer to warm its front tyres up, for example, the weight distribution of where the engine is in comparison to the Aston Martin and the McLarens, etc. That Lamborghini is looking pretty threatening, and so is that Aston.
Well, what's happened is that Lee Mole had got past at the start of this lap and moved ahead of, the end of last lap, ahead of Flick Haig. Yep. She's now trying to fight back. Andrew Howard is just in front of them in the Beechdean Aston Martin. In fact, he's gained about half a second over the opening stages of this lap. Ian Logie is chasing behind Sam DeHaan. Derek Johnson obviously lost ground with that spin. And then comes Ben Tuck leading the GT4 class, but only by 1.6 seconds on the start line. But this is very tight. Flick Haig is really, really pressing on, and what a teammate she's got to hand over to, Johnny Adam. Yeah. But in fact, a lot of the number 2 drivers, Nicky Team, Maxime Martin, these are Works World Endurance Championship racers coming to play here, and I think it's a big accolade. And hearing from Nicky, the Great Dane, how he loves these old-fashioned circuits. A bit of a mistake there for Flick Cade. We've seen many a driver clip the inside as they go through Riches, and it just costs them a bit of momentum. So bought some breathing space for Lee Mole. Not much.
Seen many a car in that field on our right-hand side over the years. They've got Riches wrong because it's such a... You want to challenge yourself all the time to get faster and faster and faster, but it just draws you in, and it's so easy to make a mistake.
I still think the classic accident of all time at Riches was when Saab had an engine in Formula 3 back in the 1980s, and they had a huge tent on the inside, great big corporate hospitality facility. And when the dust settled, opening lap of a British Formula 3 round, not one, not two, but all three of their cars were in a pile at the bottom, right in front of all the guests. The programme didn't go to a second season. No.
I think you're going to say it was right in front of the Saab hospitality suite or something. That
that's exactly what it was. That was on the infield at that corner, because they said, they positioned it, said, you know, you're new to racing, come and have a look, fantastic first corner. Not so much for your engines.
No.
Nothing to do with the engines, of course.
So that Lamborghini that we just saw, which is the number 2 car in theory, the Barwell car, so you've got the Demon Tweaks car, then you've got the sort of purpley, black-coloured liveried Ferrari, Lamborghini that we see on the far left side there. That had a spin, didn't it? The first corner. It's now clawing its way back again because the car's set up. It was a driver error, I think, and that's going to be on a right mission.
Yeah, well, just having a look. I mean, Sam DeHaan, 22 years old, doesn't have a lot of experience. He'll be gaining it now, but he's done the catching up. Now he's got to do the passing, and Ian Logie in the green, white and black Bentley in front of him has years of experience.
Yeah.
And he's got to find a way by. It's getting close, but it could be all the way up to his pit stop where he's behind. Now let's take a look at the start. Very tidy from the front row with Mark Farmer and Graham Davidson. Now look at back of the pack. We're looking for the Lamborghini. He's gone up the inside.
There we go. It just... There wasn't much. It was just... Because there's a bit of a drop-off on the inside of the circuit, the rear wheels dropped inside. Because the cars are so stiff and well set up, it's just, and also on cold tyres as well.
Cold tyres eventually on the grass. In fact, it was very good he didn't go back across the circuit, because that would have been right in front of the GT4 pack, and perhaps Ben Tuck would not be leading the class. He managed to nip past as Sam was trying to regain traction, but in fact that was a very tidy spin. Not what he'd have wanted, but
either way he's getting good TV coverage.
Yeah. Now Andrew Howard running in the 99 Aston Martin in 6th, but look how close behind Lee Mole is, and every time Lee Mole makes a move, Flick Haig fights to get back. Don't forget she was ahead of Lee earlier in the race, and Lee picked his way past that gaggle of Aston Martins. Has got one more to go, and he'll be handing over to Jelmer Berman, yet another really handy peddler to have as your number 2 driver. The pros tend to go second, the AMs in a Pro-Am pairing or a silver-silver pairing tend to go first. But up front, must say, great job being done by Mark Farmer. He's got a lead of about just around a second at the moment. So very tight in behind. Minshaw in the Lamborghini, then Davidson. Parfit there is Parfit just tucked in behind in that big Bentley. We keep calling it a big Bentley, but you look at it and its profile is that much larger than the cars around it. I mean, the Aston Martin is relatively large, so is the Nissan, but when you put it down next to the Lamborghini and against various other lower ones, it really does look big.
And the person inside the car is also as large a personality as probably more than you and I probably are, you know, because he's a great character. But having number 1 on the car, fairly new to racing as well, they're doing a great job, and I bet he's relishing these conditions because he doesn't like the wet conditions. So he's been whinging at me on the phone over the last few weeks, but these conditions are going to suit him down to the ground.
But, of course, it's a 2-driver race. He would quite like his teammate Ryan Ratcliffe to have a go, but may not if Jordan Witt continues to challenge up the inside into Wilson there.
It looked like a bit of contact.
I think there was a bit of contact. So if we start looking at the front left from the driver's point of view,
it looks still intact. The dive planes still look intact on the front of the Nissan there.
Oh dear, so Andrew Howard has come in from what was 6th place and move up everybody. In fact, Flick Haig got ahead of Lee Mole there. We didn't see that.
There's been contact. Okay, so there's contact. You can see the rubber marks by the Pirelli logo there. It's he's either scuffed a tyre bale at Hamilton, which is the fast left-hand kink, which is really easy to do, or he's made contact with another car. So we will find out at some point throughout the show.
But if it was Hamilton, that'd be on the other side of the car, presumably. Hamilton's left-hand flick, and that was the front left corner.
Yeah, left. Yeah, so the tyre bale's on the left. Yeah, so
tyre bale's on the left. Just on the right side. I thought about the thing on the
so the challenge is basically how close do you get to the tyre bale, and it's really easy to wipe your wing mirror off and ruin your car.
Well, I suppose at that point, what he had was Lee Mole getting closer and closer, and Flick Haig was right on his tail. Let's invent a story. Let's imagine he's been pushed a little bit wide. It's taken Lee Mole sort of following him and flicked up the inside. Who knows?
I made the story up and then you changed it.
Yeah, I know, but I just elaborated. The story moves on.
I love it.
So looking at one of the two Invictus Racing Jaguars, and it's being kept very honest indeed by Ultratech Kelvin Fletcher, TV star, tucked in behind. He loves his racing. He's been racing in Porsches and really having a cracking time.
But NX Mini driver, bless him.
77. Mark Murphy being pushed hard by one of the two stellar performance GT86s, number 68, kicked off in this race by Tom Canning. Tom, 16-year-old. We've got five. There's the sister car. What happens whenever we praise one car, the sister car seems to be a problem. Happened with Century Motorsport. This is number 86. So Dean McDonald out. Will Alex Quinn get a race? So we haven't had a great deal of contact, but we've got looking at cars that seem to have mechanical problems at this point. Whether that.
Look at that.
So here's our GT4 leader. How far clear? That is Ben Tuck. He was 2.7 seconds clear last time around, but the car just looks so well balanced. There is the battle behind. There's
8 or 9 cars.
Will Moore. Well, the cars that started first, second, and third are running in the order first, third, and second at the moment. So Callum Poynton in behind Will Moore and the Aston Martin, and not so far behind the first of the McLarens, and that should be Lewis Proctor down from Scotland. So 3 McLarens from the Tolman Motorsport team, and tucked in behind Proctor is the Akit Vishal version, another Scot, Finlay Hutchison, number 10. Yet another driver kicking up the dirt on the inside.
They like doing that, don't they?
They do. I think they do it because it looks lovely on camera.
Looks good. Looks good. They've been watching the touring cars too much.
Yes. Drive on the track when necessary.
Yeah.
So Will Moore, he and Matt Nicol-Jones, they know their Aston Martins inside out. They've been racing in British GT4, European GT4, and moving around. And that's one of the glories. Not only is GT4 blossoming with the number of the grids, but it's the fact that you can actually, if you fancy racing in Europe a bit, there's a European Championship, there's a Central European Championship, there's the French Championship.
Yep.
French GT, a couple of years ago, disappeared after the opening round. It had maybe a dozen cars. Now it runs nearly 50.
Wow.
And that is because they've introduced GT4.
And it's affordable.
It's affordable.
And fun. Yeah.
And also, you add more cars to the grid, more competitive you will be. So 17. Oh dear, it's not been the best start. Derek Johnson.
We got the,
well, this is Jordan Witt, who was pushing so hard for 4th place, and well, it's good for drifting.
That's at Riches. That's at the first corner.
And now we're going to change for 3rd place because Rick Parfitt Jr. suddenly, what's happened? We've just had Minshaw go back 2 positions. He's gone from 2nd back to 4th. So
we've got a Nissan in your Saab story field.
Yes.
From 2 laps earlier. So that's happened. God, it's all happening.
Well, it really is. So Phil Keane is thinking, hold on. We were 2nd. John Minshaw was 2nd. Now he's 4th. Rick Parfitt's gone up to 3rd. And Davidson has gone up into 2nd. But one thing that cannot be debated is that Aston Martin is still leading the race in the form of our poleman Mark Farmer. TF Sport car, but only under a 2nd clear. Now Rick Parfitt starting to make a bit of a move, but what was the moment there for John Minshaw? He was 2nd, he is now 4th. There are our top 4 runners altogether.
We missed that, but we did see the Nissan having a proper big off at Riches, and another one.
It's all going on, or Motorsport, all going off at the moment. That's Graham Johnson.
Another Johnson.
And he's had considerable amount of glory in the British GT Championship in recent seasons, but today doesn't appear to be one of those days. So here we are, we've got 2 races to play today. They're playing as though there's only one. And Jordan Witt trying to fight back. Came into the team late on because work commitments counted for the driver who started the start.
Preference, yeah. So we got leader. So we got that was a close move. So that's Coram Bend. Coram Bend is a really challenging corner, and we talk about GT4s as back markers. They're not, but that is a slower car that's just been overtaken. And look,
45. We've got 50 minutes to go. It's almost side by side for the lead of the race. Suddenly, Mark Farmer is not running away with it. Graham Davidson fighting back in the Jetstream Aston Martin, tucked in behind his Rick Parfitt. A little bit of a gap now back to John Minshaw. Don't know if he's done something to the car in dropping back from 2nd to 4th. We can't yet tell you what the moment was. The first 3 super close. Then a gap.
There we go. Look at that. What a lunge.
Well, it's been coming for a while, but I didn't expect it to be on this lap. I thought it'd be sizing him up, but
there was no holds barred there. That was like, I'm coming through, that's it, job done, boom. So
okay.
That was a very confident move.
If you nipped away, more fool you to get a coffee for 2 minutes, it's all changed at the front.
It always does. British GT isn't the boring endurance racing. This is full-on sprint racing. I'm
going to throw something else into the package as Rick Parfitt decides he too is going to demote our poleman Mark Farmer, who seemed serene in the lead of the race. Now he's back in 3rd place. They can't all look at TF Sport. They're scratching their heads and trying to work out what's going on. Certainly it seemed as though Graham Davidson seems to have tyres that are sweeter. He said, is there a problem for Mark Farmer? Because he's dropped right back now and John Minshaw is on his tail. And you feel is the rate of progress in a reversed, safety car up on screen. So very good timing for the driver just taking the lead.
Okay, is it because of that
Davidson.
car that parked on the outside of the circuit, or have we missed something? So wait,
no, it's still the 501.
It's still
so
that car. So that's why this safety car is out, unless we are seeing...
No, I'm sure that's the moment there. So, very good timing to get yourself into the lead of the race.
Bring it closer together.
Calm down, yes.
Bring it closer together.
Not such good news if you're Ben Tuck and you were leading by 5 and a bit seconds, leading the GT4 class, 11th overall, you started 12th. So he's going to have to do it all over again because they will close onto his tail. So, there's Maxime Martin, great Belgian racer from a great Belgian racing family. Looking to see what he'll be taking over later on, but I think he's fairly happy because mysteriously...
he did something funny. I was just about to say...
How did you used to react like that when the camera's on your face?
It's embarrassing when you actually see yourself on camera. Yeah. It's like what you do.
And it's a long hold, isn't it?
But the fact that... And it was also slightly delayed, but the fact that he just went with his eyes, I was like, perfect, good lad. Yeah. He's obviously got a good character and fair play to him.
Okay, well,
I want him to win.
There we are. New vote. So
safety car
in front of the correct car at the front of the field. But importantly, there's a GT4 runner in the middle of the batch there. So let's have a look back at the overtake for the lead. Fantastic move, Charlie.
Okay, so coming into Wilson, which is a hairpin right, just basically got much later on the brakes, shoved that Aston Martin nose up on the blue Aston Martin and just went, have some of that. But it was a very confident, bold move, but they both gave each other space. But then Rick Parfitt's also overtaken the leader as well now, or was the leader. So is there a problem, or has he just lost his nerve a little bit, confidence? I don't know, but it seems weird that he's been passed in 2 separate corners by 2 separate people.
Yeah, no, I concur with that.
So we will have a look and watch that car closely for the next few minutes.
So the safety car leading the field around. Bear in mind, the third car in that train behind the safety car is a GT4 runner. And for those in third place backwards, Farmer and Minshaw, this will be frustrating for them. They'll get him once they'll pass him probably very easily indeed once the safety car has withdrawn, but it buys the first 2 runners a little bit of an advantage.
If I was the GT4 winner, the leader at the moment, I'd be really gutted at the moment, because you've just built up that massive lead. Who do I look at? Do I look at myself? Do I look at my teammate? Who do I look at? They're quite characters, aren't they? I think it's the sunshine. It's made everyone happy.
Well, it's the happy Danes. It's Marco Sorensen and Nicky Team. Works Aston Martin Racers in the World Endurance Championship. It's worth reiterating just the calibre of drivers who are coming out to play in the British GT Championship. And for a lot of the runners to get someone like that to come along under the aegis of an Aston Martin racing cap and come and play, boost your team.
And remember, the likes of Ayrton Senna and everyone that's well known in motorsport came to England to race because of our weather, but also because of our race circuits. We've got a real high pedigree in motorsport. That's why the British GT Championship is just growing and growing and growing. Even like the Gt4 Championship earlier. It's just, everything's growing in the UK from a motorsport point of view, like you said with the French GT Championship. It's great to see from an industry point of view, and good to see from an enjoyment point of view that people are, it's accessible now.
And Charlie, just walk around the paddock here at Snetterton today. It is packed, a panoply of support races, all coming here, focusing on their own event. But let's have a look at the field as they come through behind the safety cars. First chance we've had, other than the top 4, to have them nose to tail. So coming through, we've got Davidson leading the way in the Jetstream Aston Martin. Second place, Rick Parfitt Jr. in the Bentley. Then GT4 run. Then Mark Farmer, who started on pole position. John Minshaw, Flick Haig, Ian Logie, Jordan Witt. So what's happened? Down in 9th place now. Didn't see the incident, but Lee Mole, having got up into about 5th place, has dropped down the order. You can just see the tail of his white Mercedes snaking away as they go up to Wilson. Here we are. Here's the Wilson hairpin. And the car in front of him is Sam DeHaan in the black and purple Lamborghini. 116, though, is the championship leader. He worked his way up to 5th, and sadly for him, seems to have worked his way back down in the opposite direction. We've had a few fallers in the GT3 class, but generally everybody is still going. But leading the way is the orange and white Jetstream Motorsport Aston Martin. Graham Davidson at the wheel. and it has been back and done. And of course, the pit stop window will be coming open fairly soon, so a chance for the drivers to get their helmets on, get their focus on, put their hands devices on. You can see that being clicked, the head and neck support system, gloves on.
And those of you that
have you got everything? Yeah, I've got everything.
Yeah, got everything.
Where are your gloves?
Those of you that have never probably watched motorsport before, the drivers aren't being impatient by weaving the tyres. They're actually just warming the car up, getting it all ready, rather than just driving down the M1 or the M6, for example.
Oh, some of them are impatient, I can tell.
Oh, yeah, well, definitely. And, you know, let's see what happens in race 2.
But as a driver taking over the second leg, you have to endure the starts. Drivers hate not being the ones in the car. There's Ryan Ratcliffe, Welsh racer.
Yeah.
He's waiting. His car running in second place is Rick Parfitt Jr. Last year's champion. Ryan's come across to join him this year. And we'll hope that car, well, first or second is fine to take it over. First will be better. So let's see what Rick Parfitt Jr. can do. But the clock is getting very close to the pit stops. How much do you risk? How soon do you come in? Do you come in as soon as the pit window opens or right at the end? It's going to be a scramble in the pit lanes. 30-odd cars. I think we've lost 2 or 3 coming in to make a driver change. If they all come in on the same lap, it will be better. So the teams have to manage their drivers.
Yeah, definitely. And also from a driver's point of view, joining your teammate now to take over the car. I remember giving my car to Robert Kubica at BMW at Millbrook, and I just went, I've looked after this car all day, and he went, I don't care, I'm a Formula 1 driver. And he just buggered it out for me, but he did apologise, bless him. But at the same time, Rick Parfitt might have flat spotted one of the tyres, or he might have knocked the tracking out by whacking a curb or whatever. So well, you've got to get into a car that's hot, sweaty, and it's unknown as well.
Well, it's taking longer than we'd hoped to clear it up, so at least one more lap behind the safety car. We were looking at the lights on the roof, and if they go out towards the end of a lap, you can see them flashing, it means the car will be coming in. But the McLaren safety car continues for another lap, but just want to pick on the fact that Mark Farmer was leading the race. You were talking about possible flat-spotted tyres. We haven't seen an incident, but he suddenly seemed to lose speed. He got a bit spooked when he was dived past by Graham Davidson. Then at the next corner, maybe he didn't have his mojo quite back, and Rick Parfitt went through him as well. But anyhow, with these cars running more slowly, it's a chance for this fantastic crowd eating their ice creams, enjoying the action, to look at the cars with their motorhomes. And
Matt Neal's logo gets in everywhere, doesn't he?
Just touring the positioning.
Does he do touring cars? Does he do touring cars?
I believe he does, yes.
I think it's the Minis this weekend, isn't it? So that's one of his sons racing, I think, in the Minis.
So great to see people here, and they plan for a good day out. And after, as you said, not a winter of discontent, but it's been a pretty grim spring. A chance for people not to bring all their anoraks, but sit on the banking, and you get some fantastic views at Snetterton. You can see an awful lot of the infield, or a marvellous lot of the infield.
Now the circuit's changed, you get a much better view of the circuit. Now,
yes, and a small raised vantage point. Only the small amount of rays give you a very good view at Snetterton. But I still like being out at the bomb hole. Spectating, just because the cars look so dynamic, bursting under the bridge at Brundle and then doing what they do. And as we saw in the Ginetta G40 race, it's not always according to the textbook. You
know who's on it when you just turn up at Snetterton, even just having a sandwich or an ice cream bun or whatever, or a Beach Dean ice cream, whatever it may be, just sitting at the bomb hole, just looking, just going, they're on it. They're really quick through that corner because it's such a brave corner. It changes the whole characteristics of the car.
Yeah. So, and actually, when you see races like this, now it's the GT4 runner being waved through. He's just gone ahead of Rick Parfitt. He may well be being waved through, so he's out.
You would like to think so, yeah.
And waiting to get another shot as we look at the first of the GT4 runners. Lights still flashing on the roof. Yes, the GT4 Ginetta has been flagged through. That is a good thing. So that will not be interrupting the lead battle, which is a good thing because it was...
From a driver's point of view, and also I was watching it, the closer the drivers are now getting, they can see the incident being cleared up, the car being taken back to the pits. So the closer they now are, I pretty much know that the lights are going to go out at some point because they've all bunched up, so they're all raring to go again. So that's always a good indication. If they were too far back from each other, they're just going, it'll be another lap, I can just chill out, get some air into the engine and cool down. Well, now, saying that, I bet the lights won't go out now I've said that.
You really built it up, didn't you?
But you know what I mean, though.
But they would have gauged at what stage the clear-up was. We had Mike Newbold being waved through in that GT4, the second of the GT4 HHC Motorsport. Ginetta's the first one for the team was in that pack there.
And now I've said that.
A whole gaggle. The lights still appear to be on. They're still on. Now the pit window is open. I'm not going to go in. I'm going to go in. Oh, that was a late dive from Rick Parfitt Jr.
Good.
Well, this could throw... Well, everybody's coming in. No originality these days.
What did you say? It's going to be bedlam in the pits.
I did.
Everyone came in.
right. One car has continued on its way. The team probably saying, there's just no space. Stay out there. So Ryan Ratcliffe runs out. Rick Parfitt, don't forget they have to be parked diagonally here in the pit lane at Snetterton. They wouldn't fit in end on. Below 47 in as well. Graham Davidson out. Maxime Martin, will his eyes be going up in his face as they were when he was standing in the pit lane? But busy in the pit stop. Worth reiterating.
GT4 cars, remember, have got 4 or 5 nuts to their wheels, as it were, so it takes longer for them to change. But you've got the GT3 cars have just got one like a Formula 1 nut, which is very, very easy to change. So there's different times of how long the pit window, how long the pit stop takes. But
now,
this is bedlam.
And what you could see was the mechanics or what the team manager telling the driver, stay. You have to be stationary for a certain amount of time. And worth reiterating, the top handful of runners, 3 runners in the previous race get a 10-second, 7-second, and 5-second penalty in the pit lane. And now pushing the cars back out into the pit lane, they've got to find space to do it.
It's a case of,
well, that's very, very impressive indeed. The first car out of the pit lane is the TF Sport Aston Martin, or is it? It's a long shot down the pit lane, but it looks though it's a very handy handover to Nicky Team. Yeah, no one got out in front, so the front 2 cars on the grid come out in that order as well. TF Sport ahead of Jetstream Motorsport, but this time it's Nicky Team ahead of Maxime Martin.
Right.
Bodywork damage.
Bodywork on the Lamborghini.
In the pits, or you just spotted it as it came out?
We need to watch that Lamborghini, guys, because that has got something hanging off it. So.
And the Bentley is only just rumbling out.
And that came in second. That was second, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it came in from second, but it didn't have an extra time in the pit. So you can see how hot the drivers were from that opening stint, even as though they could have cooled down. Now, why was that so bad? We couldn't see why.
Oh, Rick.
Well, pit window is open, so Ryan Ratcliffe, the car came in from second place, has come out in who knows where, but has tumbled right down the order. There's Graham Davidson looking content with his stint, and so he should. So it looks though we will be going racing again. Well, it felt like we were racing as they went in and out of the pits, but the lights are out on the safety car. Just over half of this race remaining, and I think there's probably about 1 car that has not made its call at the pits, and I think it was number 54. Yes, he didn't go in. Leading the way round, Stephen Johansson. He'll hand over to Finnish racer Jesse Antilla. He will go in this time to a lovely empty pit lane, and the race leading cars will come rumbling through. And in the background, it should be the TF Sport Aston Martin. No, it looks like one of the Ginettas is staying out a little while longer.
And it's the good old timekeepers and the transponders, all the cars that have to help us out now, because it's mayhem. Who's in the lead? Where's who? What's what? It's mental out there now. So we need to just take stock. Rick, smile, enjoy yourself.
It's not
Bless
raining,
him.
Rick, and your fortune hasn't improved. So Nicky Team now leading Maxime Martin. Of course, Charlie, if you were in the pits right now, I'd send you down to speak to Rick to find out what went on for Team Parker Racing.
I actually wanted to just go and talk to him and say what happened, because that was...
well, we couldn't see anything untoward.
I'll ask him later.
Yeah.
I'll ask him later.
Before race 2, you definitely will have to ask him.
If I dare ask.
Of course you dare. So Lamborghini in third, and then Flick Haig has handed over to Johnny Adam. He's fourth. Sam DeHaan has handed over to Johnny Cocker. He is fifth. Jordan Witt has handed over to Stuart Moore. Jordan taking over this weekend and possibly for the rest of the season, because Devon Modell has got too much business to be coming to play racing. Number 17 has had its moments, but Marco Sorensen, look for progress from this one. Of course, Marco, enormous racing pedigree, and then you have to look all the way back to what will be about 10th position. Rick Parfitt
Let's
Jr.
have a listen just to see if we can I'm just trying to see body language, and I just thought I might be able to sort of gauge. But he's basically being told that it was out of their hands. He had to do that, so he seems fairly chilled out, which is the main thing. That's good.
He seems sad, resigned.
But we need to look at the Lamborghini, the number 2 Barwell car in a way, the black and purple car with a bit of debris that was hanging off the left rear corner of that Lamborghini.
So we will gauge who's leading in GT4. Well, it looks like the BMW lost ground. It's fallen to about 5th place. So Ben Green taken over the 42 car. It lost that 5.5 second lead behind the safety car. Then in the flurry in the pit lane, it looks like Matt Nicol-Jones is now leading the class. 60.
Very frustrating
62.
when a safety car
No, I think
comes
Charlie
out.
Fagg could be leading the class. We will see. Is that Fagg up ahead? I think it well could be. So Ben Green's going to have to fight back. Don't forget that car was very good qualifying indeed. So 42 behind 10, that's the Akip Veshour car now in the hands of Daniel McKay.
Oh, they were close there.
Very
and
close.
remember, when I interviewed Ben on the grid, he said that he's got a lot more power as in straight line speed, than some of the other cars. So Snetterton isn't necessarily a massively powerful circuit because there's now loads more corners in. It's quite a technical circuit now. But it'll be interesting to see that BMW claw its way back again. So that'll be keen to good to have a bit of a look to see how they get on later on.
We come as no surprise with the Pros on board now. The new fastest laps of the race are starting to come. First, Nicky Team set it, 1 minute 49.9. Then immediately behind him, Maxime Martin, second place at 1 minute 49.8. Marco Sorensen, we talked about the 17 Aston Martin, down in 9th place. He's faster than both of them, 1 minute 49.5. So fastest lap to him. The recovery drive will come. Team Invictus Racing Jaguars, I mean, what a story they are this year.
And look at them moving around.
Really are moving around. And on board that now is Matthew George. He's taken over from Steve McCauley. So Matthew, they sound good as well, don't they?
They do sound good.
Lovely rasp.
They just need to stop spinning.
Yeah.
Stop spinning. Get some results. But the livery looks good. The car looks good. As we see the Mercedes there nearly taking which is the 116 car.
It's Jelmer Berman, and he's tucked in behind Callum McLeod, and expect that position to change.
And
but
Callum McLeod is not a slow driver. He's a very, very quick peddler.
Yeah, but Jelmer's prowess in GT3 Mercedes is quite something. He races for the Black Falcon team over around Europe and in the Middle East, in the Dubai 24 Hours and other events, and he's very quick indeed. You could see the untroubled Stella Motorsport Toyota really zapping around the circuit. But here are our first two. Nicky Team, he was 0.78 of a second clear last time around, and Maxime Martin, Dane, being chased by a Belge. And Maxime, I've almost never seen a happier driver than when he followed in the family footsteps a couple of years ago to win the Spa 24 Hours, following in the wheel tracks of his father and uncle, who were so strong in their Capris and other things in the late 1970s. And to win any race your father has won, but to do it on home ground, I mean, it was magnificent.
I can imagine.
I feel there was a bit of a party brewing within moments of the end of the podium.
I think it's probably still going on now.
Yes.
Because it will be a memory they'll never forget. Oh, okay.
Now,
so
that was a GT4 run, putting Maxime Martin on the inside line where he didn't necessarily want to go, but he hasn't really lost a lot of ground. 0.9 of a second on the start-finish line. The gap between Nicky Team, the driver who just simply wanted to get away from you on the grid, Charlie, just wanted to get on with racing, and that's what he's here for.
You said
a lovely sort of way.
You said he'd be a really good guy to interview.
He's actually more keen than not. We'll get him after the race next time.
I've never actually spoken to a racing driver that was so quiet. So I was going, talk to me. Bruce says you can talk. But he just wanted to get on with it. He really just wanted to get on with it.
So in the GT4 class, it's Matthew George. And a chap who knows his McLarens rather well, Joe Osborne, driver who's been around GT4s and the British GT Championship for a very long time now.
He's driven nearly everything in GTs.
Entirely so.
He's driven absolutely nearly everything. I asked him at Rockingham and he says everything.
Did he say, how long have you got? I shall fill you in with the facts, but 12th and 13th positions overall, but first and second in the class. And which way is this one going to go? Because let's see, last time around they were lapping, Joe Osborne was 0.7 of a second faster, so it could come his way.
Yeah, I think it will do.
Yeah, he was racing British GT4s in 2008.
He's got the window open. What's he got the window open for? I know that Flick Haig said that they've got no air conditioning in the cars. Well, look.
Sunday afternoon drive. Actually, it's Sunday morning at the moment, of course. But this is getting very tight. Matthew George holding off the Jaguar, holding off the McLaren. Then you look back behind the Martin Plowman, 6 seconds back, both windows. That's a bit of a through draft.
But that's really rare, though. That's why I'm pointing it out, because it causes drag. It slows you down. So.
Well, he's still faster than the class leader, Invictus Games Jaguar.
And cooler.
And a lot cooler. Might be keeping his tyres as cool as he can, and himself.
Joe said he basically, at Rockingham, he said, I want to make as much noise as possible because my future wife works literally just over the road from Rockingham. And they can't concentrate because of the noise of Rockingham at the race circuit.
That's caring and sharing.
Yeah, he said, no, he said, I want her to come and watch me race. He said, so I make a load of noise.
Right,
so
challenge for the lead, though. Sorry, that was a GT. No, I looked up and it was a GT4 Aston Martin. I suddenly thought it was
coming into.
So Nicky Team still leading 1.5 seconds clear. So in fact, he gained 0.7 on that lap. Sorry, the car in second place is separated by the HHC Motorsport Ginetta. There is 47 Maxime Martin. Their lap times dropped off a tiny bit last lap, but that's traffic, as you can see. Everywhere around the circuit there is traffic.
There's our BMW that we've been gunning for a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and you know where he is in class? He's down in about 7th place.
Why? Because of the pit stop?
GT4, simply because of the pit stop. Let's see his lap times compared to his rivals. Very similar.
4 or 5 abreast into the bomb hole. That's pretty cool.
It does take, with 33 cars starting this race, a lot of complicity from the GT4 runners. They don't want to ruin their own battles, don't want to back off too much to let someone pass, but when you've got the likes of Niki Thiem and Maxime Martin really, really pressing on, they're not going to wait for a second opportunity to go past. They have to grab every moment. So now, clear track, well, for 3 nanoseconds, and another GT4 car will come between these 2 Aston Martins, first and second in the race. It's 11 ahead of 47. It's Thiem ahead of Maxime Martin.
And sometimes it is pot luck. Wherever the slower car is positioned on the circuit, you either meet them at a bad time and your competitor gains advantage, and we can see that the leading Aston Martin there is gained advantage, because look, we're now stuck behind a GT4 car, which is doing its own thing, it's having its own race, but just timing, it's just bad timing, and it is genuinely pot luck.
Oh, but totally, and you can feel very, very aggrieved. There was nothing else that Ben Green could do there. This is the car that started from class pole in GT4, 12th overall. It's now down in 19th. Almost all the demise appears to have been down to whatever happened wrongly in the pits. But just to reiterate, safety car was still out when the pit window opened, and everybody, bar I think 4, possibly 5 cars, dived in. And it's not the biggest pit lane in the world, so you can understand how a few teams may have just dropped the baton. Looking down the Bentley straights.
Nobody.
We talked about bunches of cars, and then suddenly, we've had a change to the lead in GT4.
Yes,
because
Joe
Matthew
Osborne.
George has been hunted down by the man who's taking in the afternoon, the morning breeze here. Joe Osborne's put 1-3 Tolman Motorsport McLarens into the lead. It was a case of when, not if. And off goes Joe through the bomb hole into Coram, your favourite corner on the circuit, Charlie. And just load it up and keep it there.
And he's a great character as well. Joe is one of the funniest people you will meet. He is absolutely hilarious, and I congratulated him at Rockingham and said, well done on your McLaren gig. And he was just like, thanks dude, you know, and you could just, he's worked so hard for it. But yeah, he's done the move, job done. And watch him pull away, because he'll whack in some good lap times now.
Yeah, well, I think he was armed with the confidence. He knew he had the pace to go past. He knows this circuit very well from, as we say, you know, a decade or more of racing. Now here comes the race leader, not that far behind the GT4 front runners.
No.
And
so there's our number 2
just
car.
looking for the gaps, 2.4 seconds now. It keeps going out. So Niki Thiem has worked the traffic very well. Maxime Martin had a little less luck, but I think in out-and-out pace, Niki has probably got about a 1/10 of a second per lap in the bag.
That was close, yeah.
Nissan had to check out. Now here's a replay of the GT4 class lead changing.
So
Joe Osborne hunting down Matthew George up the inside.
Agostini up the inside, job done. But that would have been prepared 3 laps earlier, 4 corners earlier, and just been prepared just to get the braking done and get that momentum out of the previous corner to get on the brakes ready to do the pass. As we've got the leaders there still passing GT4 cars.
Yes, and every time you look up, it's Niki Thiem, gets a bit of clear track, and then who's next to be passed. But don't forget, for Niki Thiem and Maxime Martin, they don't know a lot of these drivers. We've had opening round in dreadfully wet conditions at Alton Park, so it wasn't a normal circumstance. Very cold conditions at Rockingham, and maybe here for the first time they're getting to understand who the drivers of the GT4 cars are.
Who to trust, who not to trust, yeah. But Niki Thiem has been very, very lucky with traffic.
He has.
It's just, without even really watching the TV screens and the monitors we're all looking at, he's just seemed to have, it's just fallen you know, but the 47 car has really struggled.
So here we have
got another
our
battle.
GT4 and overall race leader, and they're just overtaking the driver leading GT4, which is Joe Osborne. You can see the first 2 Aston Martins have gone through. Just looking at the screen, so we mentioned the 17 Aston Martin, fastest lap of the race, just moved ahead of Jelmer Berman. So the number 17 Aston Martin on the rise up to 8th position, lapping fastest of anyone. Those 2 incidents early in the first half of the race for Derek Johnson in the second of the TF Sport Aston Martins has cost them dear, but Marco Sorensen fighting his way back. His next target, about half a second up the road, is Callum McLeod in the number 7 Bentley, and a big snaky moment there as Phil Keane in 3rd place goes past the 2nd place car in GT4, which is Matthew George in the 44 Jaguar from Invictus Racing.
So Phil be on a right mission. So there he is, just coming up to, is that Joe Osborne in the 56 car?
Yes, it will be.
So Phil Keane there, both of them have got lots of respect for each other, so that they're giving each other a bit of room. knowing the difference.
I know why Joe's got the windows open. So he can shout insults at other drivers as they come past him, either side. A little joke, a little jibe. That's the sort of guy he would be.
Oh yeah,
Grand
definitely.
Prix du Rock. If there's a choice phrase, he's likely to be holding on to it.
Even with headsets on, I'm sure we can still hear what he's saying and what he's thinking in that car. But yes, windows down, just chilling out really. Excuse the pun.
Yeah, and he's moving nicely clear. At the end of that lap, he put 1.3 seconds on the car he just overtaken. So Matthew George hanging on, but losing ground. Now, background, there is the Bentley of Callum McLeod, Team Parker Racing, on the GT4 McLarens, and then in behind and certainly catching, there we are, the black and white Aston Martin of Marco Sorensen. That's the car that set the fastest lap of the race a few moments ago, and then has had a couple of slower laps in traffic. And in traffic is where this duo are now, fighting over 7th place overall.
Watch Callum.
Look at Sorensen's bravado.
Oh, do you know what? Callum nearly got pushed down the straight by that Mercedes.
He certainly did,
and he got a really good run out of Williams down onto the back straight.
Yeah,
Aston.
Yelmer Berman is right on the centre, around the outside. That is super strong from Marco Sorensen, and Berman says, "I'll come through as well." Classic moment. You only see one car coming behind because the second one is so close. Yeah. You're looking at a GT4 class. It is very difficult in multi-class racing, or motorsport is very easy in multi-class racing to just miss what's coming up behind you.
Look at the cars, just buckling or willowing and just
Yelmer
moving
Berman
around.
just dives down Matt Nicol-Jones as though he wasn't there. That just shows the speed differential between GT3 and GT4. Marco Sorensen now right on the tail. I think it's not Joe Osborne. The windows are closed.
No, really.
That's number 4. That's Charlie Fagg. And Charlie kept out of the way in one of the other two Tolman Motorsport McLarens. But this car absolutely flying in the hands of Marco Sorensen. Next target is Stuart Moore in the Nissan.
And you know what? It's not going to take very long because that Aston is on a right mission. It's passed, 3 or 4 cars in the last
2 laps.
4 corners or so.
Yeah, that happened.
Amazing. Look at it. Again, it's done another car. I know it's a GT4 car, I know, but how long is it going to take to pass the Nissan? Let's see. 17 minutes left of the race as well.
But the big problem is the next car up the line is 9 seconds clear. 9 seconds behind Johnny Cocker. Johnny Cocker, we still haven't actually seen the tail of that Barwell Lamborghini to see the damage.
No,
we spotted it as it came out of the pits, but no warning flags. Oh, stop and go penalty for car number 44. It's on one of the front row.
Don't tell me it's that Lamborghini.
It's Matthew George in the Jaguar that was leading the GT4 class. We've just been commenting on him, and he's tumbled down the order. I think he's just served it. Yes, he has. He's just coming back out. So suddenly we've got up into 2nd place.
Look at this.
In the GT4 is Martin Plowman in the 53, which is one of the...
Is the Aston. The Aston's going to do it around the outside into Brundle. No. Oh, do you know what? He's putting that Aston wherever he wants to put it just to get that pass done. But he is definitely going to be passing that Nissan, if not going to be held up by the GT4 leader in a second. But
well, watch for Yelmer Berman. 1 became 2. It's about to become 3. There's the white Mercedes in the background.
Here we go.
In behind Callum McLeod could yet pick up the pieces in the Bentley. Pieces may be the operative word.
It does look quite aggressive, that driving style, doesn't it?
Okay, Richard.
It's like on a mission.
If I was the driver, is that Joe Osborne? He's kept out of the way very tidily. He's looked up to 1, 2, 3 GT3 runners. He's actually had to jink it across to take his line into Riches, and that's cut Yelmer Berman off the back of this group, clipping the dust on the inside. Well, everybody clipping the dust on the inside.
Who hasn't?
But right now, Stuart Moore driving the very wide and clever line through the corner. Joe Osborne's going to lose momentum because the fourth of that gaggle of GT3 runners is coming through. Stuart Moore doing just enough to keep Sorensen behind him, but you feel it is a question of for how much longer can they do it.
Those of you that own an Aston Martin that are watching this are going, no, don't get that close, don't get that close. But do you know what? It's a race car. It's got to be done. But GT racing, there's still a tiny bit of contact, but it's really close, awesome racing. I love it. There's a bit of a gap now.
The big key is where is the next gaggle of GT4 runners up ahead of them, because they had the gaggle, they've worked their way through, they've got far, in fact, they've got past all of them because they've just passed Joe Osborne, who's the class leader.
Yeah.
So they'll catch the tail end GT4 runners next, and they may not be so complicit.
They won't be as helpful as Joe was.
Joe had enough of an advantage. Of course, the car he just overtaken has had the drive-through penalty. One of the 2 Invictus Racing Jaguars. Matthew George has fallen down to 26th position overall. Here is the battle for 6th and 7th place. Moore ahead of Sorensen. Jelmer Berman tucked in behind. Callum McLeod, you can see the green wings on his Bentley in the background. But Moore is just, it's a big car, it's a wide car, and it's certainly fulfilling that brief.
Well, he's definitely put the stoppers on that Aston, isn't he? Because that Aston was on a right mission, but it's still, you can see the body language of the two cars. The Aston is looking much, much hungrier for that move, whereas the Nissan sort of looks like it's just defending because it's sort of not given up, but it's 15 minutes left, the tyres might be gone, the brakes might be gone, anything could have happened within that car. But that Aston, I predict will pass that Nissan in the next 2 laps.
Okay, they've got an Invictus Jaguar up ahead. I think that's Matthew George. 2 laps, I think you're probably on for that.
I don't know. I said no, the safety car likes to go out earlier, but they didn't.
There is no target for Stuart Moore because he's
here we go.
some distance, nearly 10 seconds down on the car ahead. Jaguar very well. Both of them have dived past. Jaguar tucks in behind. That's absolutely fine. But Stuart Moore continues, but he's got more traffic up ahead. The number 50 Ginetta has to be passed. That's Will Burns. He tucks himself out of the way, but he's got to take the corner at some point. Stays to the outside at Agostini, so very well done indeed. Down towards Hamilton. Jelmer Berman the wrong side of that Ginetta, but will pass it before they get to the quick flick at Hamilton.
Or Flick Hagel. Flick Hagel. Quick flick.
Quick flick. Well, she's in the pits now.
Yeah.
Flick as much as she wants, but oh, look. Little
yes.
Quick look up the inside, but critical corner. Down the back straight they go. We know what comes next. Down the Bentley straight they go.
And we know that
Aston's quick. Up the inside before.
We've seen that.
And will it work? He's already shaping up diving. He's not going to have a go this time.
Oh,
no, he's not. I think he's just having a little look to see how good Stuart Moore is. And Stuart, I must say, is defending.
He's doing a great job.
Very well indeed.
Great job.
Jelmer Berman has got the best seat in the house tucked behind, but actually he'd rather have the seat at the front, not the back of this little train. But again, this is a show of the British GT Championship. Look, this mix, Nissan, Aston Martin, tucked in behind Mercedes and a Bentley. Fabulous mix of cars. That's what draws the fan in, and this level of racing. Meanwhile, at the front of the race, nearly 5 seconds clear now at Nicky Team ahead of Maxime Martin. Hard to pull your eyes away from this action though, but Stuart Moore completes another lap. 23 laps on the board now. Where is this move coming? Because Charlie's starting to sweat alongside me because
I've
he's
just
only
lost
got
the
this lap
I've
for the
lost the
move to happen. £5,000 he said earlier.
Oh no, he said £5. Here we go. Right, so he's done the dummy, so he's gone round the outside, so he's forced the Nissan onto the inside. Oh, look how close they're getting. This is awesome racing.
He's got to dive up the inside now. Your house is...
No, it's...
on the tiles.
I thought I was all right then, but he's lost it again now. But what a great battle.
Well, I didn't understand why he didn't go for the... I thought he might be tucking on the inside, but of course, when you get to Palmer, it's a left-hander, you need to be up the inside there, but... You were talking earlier, Charlie, about how a driver might work his move for 3 or 4 corners before, and I thought it was all part of a process, but I'd say Stuart Moore is very much the equal of what Marco Sorensen can throw at him. Jelmer Berman tucked in behind is doing his best to stay there.
That Nissan looks like it's struggling on tyres. That Aston and the Mercedes, look, they're chomping at the bit, and that Nissan, bless it, has been defending, trying so hard with these two sort of Jack Russells basically snapping at its heels. Have maybe overcooked his tyres, but
could well have done. And what we saw just then,
but he's doing a great job though. I'm not putting the driver down in the Nissan.
Took a very different line at Williams to the others because he wasn't fighting for position. He was trying to get a slingshot onto the back straight. Hasn't benefited him at all because they've been the equal of it. But look, those cars covered by nothing. Callum McLeod tucked in behind is closing in. And that is 6th through to 9th place. Nicky Team continues to lead the race, 4.17 seconds clear.
Oh, bit of sideways there from the Nissan, Those tyres are definitely getting very hot. Very, very hot. And that Aston still looks well and truly planted, doesn't it? It looks... Saying that, though.
Well, the Nissan always looks mighty in a straight line, but when it comes to the corners, the Aston Martin just looks so neutral.
Yeah.
And behind, I'd say the Mercedes looking a little bit loose with Jelmer Berman throwing it around with abandon. A, trying to keep up, and B, I think, was as these two fight, was looking to see if I could just have my own script and go up the outside. Now,
here we go.
Very well done for 88, staying wide, keeping out of the way. So that's Benjamin Wallace.
So GT4.
Well done to him. He's running in GT4.
But you know what? Moore is doing a blooming good job.
He really is.
Good job.
Callum McLeod just doesn't have the pace to keep up, but the traffic allows him to close in a little bit, and then when it gets to clear traffic again, or a lack of traffic. You see the Nissan pulling clear. So
there's Johnson there and
Farmer down in the pits.
Farmer, yeah, that's it.
That's a TF Sport. They can't really look. It hasn't really gone their way, except if you're Farmer, because of course your teammate Nicky Team is leading the race. But Derek Johnson had those moments in his car with Sorensen.
Oh my God! Pushing that Nissan round. That Aston. What did I say? 2 or 3 laps? Can I just sort of change it to be like a few laps?
Change
it's
the
definitely going
parameters.
to pass.
Look,
it's definitely going to pass.
You know, half of them wants to watch because their cars are doing well, but half of them doesn't want to watch because one of them is in the thick of the thickest battle in the race, which is this battle for 6th place. Look for the Aston Martin, number 17, tucked in behind the red Nissan, but it's been like this for laps. In behind the 116 Mercedes, been like that for laps. The Jelmer Berman, then a GT4 runner, and then the car that can't quite hang on. It's the number 7 Bentley, Jelmer Berman. Sorry, not Jelmer Berman, Callum McLeod.
Yeah. He's just
next in train, but just
again,
falling back. He gains when there's traffic and loses when they're in clear air. Right now they're in clear air, going around Coram, coming down towards the end of the lap, into Murray's. Nissan staying on the circuit, but it really does make a bit of a meal of the corners when it gets tight.
So 8.5 minutes left. 8.5 minutes. Nissan doing a massively wicked job at defensive driving as we pick up our leader there.
Well, he's effortlessly clear. It's coming down. Maxime Martin is closing down. He's taken about a second out of him. That could have been traffic. It could be just
sorry,
another
Bruce,
challenge.
sorry.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
getting all excited because
Marco Sorensen up around Wilson one more time. Alongside
he's on the wrong side. He's done it.
Wow.
My house is safe.
No, your lap parameter is gone. So
my house is safe.
Derek Johnson nipped out for a moment. He's just come back. What happened? Did I miss anything? Yes, you did. Marco Sorensen has made the move on Stroh Moore. Now it's the turn of Jelmer Berman to see how he can manage to find a way past in the ERC Sport Mercedes.
I'm sorry for that Nissan now.
So do I. Not long to go. 8 minutes to go, and here comes the Mercedes.
It just looks like I think he's driven so defensively for the last few laps that he's overcooked his tyres. But what a great job he's done. But I think you can just see. Look. There you go. Move's done. There we go. Inside of Williams.
He's having to take several bites of the corner, whereas the Mercedes and the Aston Martin seem to do it in one fell swoop.
Good power test though.
Yeah.
Good power test. Let's see, because they exited this corner at exactly the same time. But the Nissan's on the inside.
The Nissan still have its nose in front, but Jelmer Berman's not prepared to accept that, and Callum McLeod's close right in. So
Callum McLeod's rubbing his hands together now.
It's coming my way. But you talked to the drivers on the grid, Charlie, before the race. A lot of them were just saying, we're just going to go out and race. You tried to throw in the tyre strategy thing. And yes, Nicky did own up. But
I tried to get technical.
I know, the Aston Martins are a bit hot on their tyres. But looking at that, I think other rivals are suffering more than they are. The Aston Martin's looking very well balanced. Nicky Team leading the race by 3.6 seconds now. It's coming down. Maxime Martin is closing. We've had to change the order, and suddenly Callum McLeod may be able to demote that Nissan as well. Stroh Moore fought really gamely, but it looks though he's pushed too hard too soon, or more to the point, was forced to push too hard too soon and take the life out of those tyres. Lee Mole looking on to see if Jelmer Berman can gain another position, but he's got Sorensen. Oh well,
I love that.
Championship. He races for fun.
It's great.
But in a very, very professional way.
But every driver we picked up in the pits have done something funny.
They haven't been a bad advertisement for the championship.
They haven't been boring, have they? They've been
the
fun.
calibre of the RF cameramen raising a smile out, and that's a craft in its own right as well. We haven't mentioned the people in second and third for some. Third and fourth for some while. Phil Keane.
Who's Phil Keane?
Phil Keane, he's third, but he's 4 seconds down on Maxime Martin in his Lamborghini. Then Johnny Adam took over from Flick Haig. He's another 9 seconds down, but 3 seconds clear of Johnny Cocker. In fact, we haven't seen the Cocker car since it left the pit lane with that bodywork a little bit loose on the left rear, but it's clearly held together.
Yeah.
Leading the way in GT4, it's Joe Osborne by a comfortable margin over Charlie Fagg and Matt Nicol-Jones. So for Charlie Fagg, it's a Tolman Motorsport, McLaren 1-2. Number 4 there is Charlie Fagg. Matt Nicol-Jones nearly chucking it off the circuit behind him, and Scott Morvan is closing in as well. So Morvan, so talented in Formula 4, great to have him back around. He's in a Team Parker Racing Mercedes, back of that group. But 62 is third in the GT4 class. Well, second, third and fourth, you can see nose to tail in GT4, but Joe Osborne leading the way by 9 seconds. So he's got, with 5 minutes left on the board, he's got a 9-second advantage in GT4. But this is second, third and fourth, fighting very, very hard indeed. And Scott Morvan looks though he's the driver who could be making the moves, but the clock is ticking down. He's caught this group of Fagg, or the duo of Fagg and Nicol-Jones. Now he's got to try and pass it, but as we saw with Marco Sorensen trying to get past the Nissan of Struan Moore took a large number of laps. He's done the job now. Sorensen up into 6th place, but GT4 can do everything that GT3 can. First to second's gone out to 4.4 seconds, Charlie, so Nicky Team has weathered the storm, the push and shove of traffic, and that's a comfortable lead with 4.5 minutes remaining.
Yeah, and lap times are looking, what, 149.3, fastest...
They're doing 150s.
150s at the moment, and the fastest lap at the moment of the whole race is Sorensen.
Yes, Sorensen fastest. In fact, the car chasing him closed in on, tried to close in last lap, but they're both pulling away from Moore, and fastest lap of the race for Jelmer Berman, the 116 Mercedes. This is a great little battle in GT4 though. Scott Malvern, I think a talent, so it's great that he's back out racing again because you know, showed so much talent racing British Formula 4 2011, 2012. It's just good to have him back out there. There's certain drivers who try and dive in, and you know they don't have the money, but you hope they're driving to do the talking. But it takes one driver, one seasonal choice you get wrong, and your career can go up a cul-de-sac. And I think Scott's a driver like that. As well, you know, Charlie, trying to balance the books and guess right. Is that ideal backer really genuine?
It is, yeah.
Well, they're going a puff of air, but anyhow, now we're seeing Matt Nicol-Jones go to the outside of young Charlie Fag. Charlie down from Durham, and in the background, Scott Malvern.
No,
when I say in the background, they're all covered by a second, so not that far back.
Put a sheet over them, you wouldn't be able to tell that there's 3 cars underneath them. But yeah, good little battle going on here with these 2.
Okay, you're the expert, Charlie. Who's got the most tyre life of this grouping? Just looking at a lot of understeer there from the Aston Martin in the middle of the picture, but Nicol-Jones seems quite happy to drive with it like that.
Oh, I don't know. Good. Oh, God, you threw that one at me.
No, I did. Because
I reckon the Aston Martin.
You reckon?
I reckon that's working. But then the McLaren looks so nimble. It's so low. It looks smaller. I think that's fine. And if we look at the lap times of what Charlie Fagg's doing to what Joe Osborne's doing, I'll be able to cheat and actually find out whether the McLaren's actually doing a good job or not.
Yeah, well, Joe doesn't have to push right now because he's sitting on that very tiny advantage. He's worked hard, got to the front in the class. Just pointing out that Matthew George has picked his way up the order a bit after that drive-through penalty. But we've talked before, get it wrong in the pits and you've thrown away an hour's activity.
Yeah.
However hard you fight to shave a 1/10 of a second off here and gain a position there, you've just thrown it in the bin if you transgress during your pit stops.
And Bruce, only 2 minutes. Just over 2 minutes remaining from our first hour GT race here at Snetterton.
It's a blink, isn't it?
Oh, seriously, I'm sweating here. It's like proper hard work. I'm loving it.
No, but it is good, and it's also down to the the quality of the pictures we're seeing as well. They're picking out the battles around the circuit, and it's difficult with so.
And there's the leader.
Come back to the behaviour of the. There's the race leading Aston Martin in the background, but the Aston Martin in the middle of that GT4 battle getting very, very sideways. Scott Malvern has been picked off by Nicky Team. He's now got to go past Matt Nicol-Jones, Aston Martin to Aston Martin, no problem at all. Charlie Fag has to turn into Riches, does so. How many of them are going to kick up the dust on the inside? Matt Nicol-Jones had a little look. Mark Farmer, he's really rather happy with life. Graham Davidson looking on as well. See if his car is going to remain where it is, but it's looking as though Mark Farmer will be having a very big smile off the race because his co-driver, his number 2 driver, what a number 2 driver to have, Nicky Team leading the race, and he's got traffic between himself, 6.5 seconds clear now of Maxime Martin. So Maxime has not backed off, he just realised there's no point absolutely caning it because he's not going to catch Nicky Team. He'll take the points for second place and come out of play again this afternoon for race number 2. And there is Maxime Martin, the Belgian racer, going through Agostini and will whip around towards Hamilton. Final lap of the race. And he can back off, but he's nearly 3 seconds clear of Phil Keane in the Demon Tweaks Lamborghini, started by John Minshaw. But here is our race leader, Nicky Team. Don't forget that TF Sport Aston Martin wasn't always in the lead of the race. Jetstream car did have its turn in the front, but right now Mark Farmer up on the pit wall. It's a 2-race programme here at Snetterton, another 1 hour of racing this afternoon. And through Brundle, through the bomb hole and into Coram, the corner that Nicky Team said on the grid that he liked so much. He's got it all under control. No need to pass any more GT4 cars because the checkered flag will be the thing he sees next. So through that wonderful sweep, through Coram, into the tight corner at Murray's, the little left-hander. Very technical corner, very easy to overcook and run across the grass, and then you're all 4 wheels off the grass. Little right-hand kink onto the start-finish straight. And doesn't matter if the gap went out or came down on this lap because it was a clear win for Mark Farmer and Nicky Team. Applause. John Gore up on the pit wall from Aston Martin as well. Look on the action. Second place to Aston Martin as well. It's Maxime Martin building on the work of Graham Davidson. Phil Keane completes the top 3 in his Lamborghini. Next should be Johnny Adam and then Johnny Cocker. So Aston Martin ahead of Lamborghini. Here is the battle for what will be 7th place, because Jelmer Berman should go through after Marco Sorensen. They are 6th and 7th. And Stuart Moore has done just enough to resist the best efforts of Callum McLeod. There's the Nissan ahead of the Bentley. The top 10 will be completed by Ryan Ratcliffe. Still don't know what the problem was in the pit stop. That Bentley had come in from 2nd place, and maybe Charlie will find out when he goes to the podium. But Charlie Farewell, off he goes. And we will see why they tumble down the order. But what we can tell you for sure is the top 3 overall was the 11 Aston Martin, the number 47 Aston Martin, and the 33 Lamborghini. Top car in the Silver Cup class was that Nissan in 8th place overall of Stuart Moore and Jordan Witt. Leading home in GT4 was Joe Osborne in 12th place overall. His teammate Charlie Fagg 2nd in class, and Matt Nicol-Jones coming home in 3rd. So Osborne had that under control, but really Aston Martin's dominating up at the front end, 1st and 2nd, and the best of the rest was the Demon Tweaks Lamborghini. So, cracking first race. We had the safety car that may have changed things for a few people, but what it did was it intensified the action in the pit lane, with almost everybody of the 33 starters coming in at the same time. I think 4 or 5 cars decided it was just going to be too crowded, and they stayed out for another lap behind the safety car, which would have cost them as well. We had some who gained and some who slightly lost out in the pit stop procedure, but what we have there was a great race, and Mark Farmer very, very pleased with life indeed. Well done indeed.
Yeah, very happy.
Very, very happy. You heard the words. So there it is. So he should be. Farmer and Nicky Team clear 7.466 seconds from Davidson and Martin. So two Aston Martins, 1st and 2nd. Lamborghini in 3rd, Minshaw and Keane. And up from 9th to 4th, a good run from Flick Haig and Johnny Adam. Sam DeHaan, Johnny Cocker, they came home 5th. Johnson and Sorensen, problems early in the race, but Sorensen, what a fantastic drive back up the order to 6th place. And championship leaders before this race, Lee Mole and Jelmer Berman, tucked in behind in 7th overall. Big question marks though, down in 10th place, Rick Parfitt Jr. and Ryan Ratcliffe. They were 2nd at the stops. What went wrong? Top car in GT4, Pattison and Osborne. David Pattison will be thrilled with that. Joe Osborne will have a huge smile on his face. He fought his way to the front. The Jaguar in behind got a drive-through penalty. That made it easy, but the job had already been done. And then O'Brien and Charlie Fagg coming home 2nd in GT4, and the Aston Martin from Academy Motorsport, Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones completing the podium just ahead of Nick Jones and Scott Morvan, who were right on their tail. So cracking first of 2 races here at Snetterton. We've had the cold, wet start at Alton Park. We've had just the cold when we went to Rockingham, and now the sun is shining at Snetterton, and certainly the smiles are beaming in the TF Sport camp, and I think Nicky Team enjoyed that. Mark Farmer's had a chance to calm down. Yeah, they love that. That's the win in the bag.
Great job, Nicky. A drink if you want it.
Good stuff.
And good to hear the applause from the team for their drivers too.
Yeah, so quick. Yeah,
But that was just a chance to see these cars really stretching their legs, and good driving conditions, probably for the first time
I'm sure they will.
this year. But of course, for the 2nd race this afternoon, the driver who's finished, like Nicky Team here, will be starting the race, and he'll be starting that from pole. So 2 fantastic qualifying sessions for the TF Sport team. Mark Farmer started from pole, had to work hard, did a great job, and then Nicky Team finished it off very well indeed, as he and fellow flying McLaren racer Maxime Martin started to trade fastest laps. Marco Sorensen was fastest for. He was down in 6th place by the end, but great to see these very, very strong pro drivers coming and putting the standards ever higher in the British GT Championship.
That was hard, isn't
So he's quick away from the commentary box, down to there's Maxime Martin in 2nd place, congratulating our race winner Nicky Team, and Charlie Butler Henderson, suited and booted in his jacket, is right down there with Nicky Team, race winner.
Nicky, well done. Talk to me. Good race, back markers, GT4s. Did it help you out? What were the benefits? You know, you both did a sterling job. Well done.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great job. have to get credit to the guys here because we were P3 into the pit stop, and it's done a stunning job getting us out there ahead.
Yep.
And from there on was just handling the traffic, which is fun. It's like driving on a Danish out motorway, just running cones, so it's great. No, I'm just super happy for the first win. I think we deserve it. Again, Mark has been tremendous the whole weekend, so let's hope he does the same in the second race.
Okay, what's it like very quickly, pairing up with a legend like this young man?
Oh, very privileged, obviously. You know, I mean, he's super rapid and super fun. Yeah, and I get a lot out of it. So he's helping me lift my game.
Basically, just a typical Larry European driver.
Completely crazy.
Good. Well done, guys. I'm going to leave you to it.
Thank you.
Happy celebrations.
Well done there. Charlie Butler-Henderson down with the winners, Nicky Team and Mark Farmer. Mark started and Nicky completed the job, and very impressive indeed. But as they said, their pit crew deserve some praise as well for getting them from third when they came into the pits to go back out into the lead of the race. General melee down around the bottom of the podium. Lots of drivers hoping to get up there and take the accolades, knowing they've got another shot this afternoon. Of course, we'll have the podiums for overall, plus the GT4 runners and the top in Pro-Am class in GT4 as well. So just a question of lining up the drivers and the trophies, getting them ready to go up. But plenty to talk about, plenty of incidents in the race, and as you can see, always the descriptions. But let's go down to Charlie. He's working like a Trojan down in the paddock. Charlie, who have you got?
Okay, I've got Joe Osborne, who did an absolute legendary job, and even though the podiums are literally just taking place now, Joe, talk us through it quickly.
David did a mega job, handed over, and I just had to cruise, really. The most eventful thing happened to me was my driver window smashed, so I had to push it out on the pit straight, so that bit of glass was my fault.
Both your windows are open?
Yeah, cruising, so it looked like a Sunday morning cruise, but
we have been talking about you, saying that you've been just cruising. So anyway, Bruce, back to you. We've got our answer. His window was broken. Job done. Well done, Joe.
Well done. Obviously, you'd have to open the second window to relieve the pressure, but let's look up at the podium. There is on the right-hand side John Minshaw and Phil Keane. On the left-hand side, Maxime Martin and Graham Davidson. Up onto the top step, Mark Farmer and Nicky Team, our top three finishers after a cracking opening race. The first of two here at Snetterton, with the trophies being presented by Jonathan Wells, UK Motorsport Manager for Pirelli. And the team, all these this trio of pairings will be hoping that they can collect some more trophies this afternoon, because of course points win prizes. You've got to be consistent to win it. But for Mark Farmer and Nicky Team, that's their first win of the 2014 campaign. They had a third place at Oulton Park, but didn't get in among the thick end of the points at round 2 at Rockingham. So they've got to do it all over again. They'll be starting on pole from this afternoon's race, that time with Nicky Team starting and Mark Farmer hoping to see what he can do. But let's look back to the highlights of 1 hour of action-packed racing. And it was a very tidy start from Mark Farmer, keeping Graham Davidson behind him. Very tight in behind, and look out for Sam Dehaan in the Lamborghini just inside the Nissan, just clipping the inside, just running out of space and going for a spin. Beautifully contained. Would have been so easy to come back across the pack, but for the GT4 runners, they say thank you, Sam, for keeping out of their way. But the battle at the front was very tough indeed, and Graham Davidson diving down inside Mark Farmer. Now, in behind was Gt4 Podium Jr, and he then got past. Farmer got rather spooked in the space of those two corners and went off the circuit, and the McLaren at the outside of the circuit off, waiting for rescue. That was Graham Johnson. That brought out the safety car, and as the safety car was still continuing on its way, the pit window opened. It was a massive scramble into the pits. The Bentley should have been second in that line, and it came out in about 10th position. You could just see it being pushed around the background. So for Gt4 Podium Jr, what could he do? The answer was nothing. They were effectively out of the running. Then this was a scrap. Joe Osborne moving past Matthew George to take the lead in the GT4 class. As we found out, that was with a window missing. And the 17 Aston Martin, Marcus Sorensen, pushing, eventually got past Struan Moore in the Nissan. Struan defended mightily, but then he started to move a little bit backwards. So here came Nicky Team all the way to the front of the race, taking the checkered flag. Great surprise and delight for Mark Farmer. There is their first win of the year. And now it's time for the GT4 podium. Just moving on to the top step to join David Patterson is the smiling Joe Osborne. Charlie Fagg alongside in the number 4 entry took second with Michael O'Brien, and third overall is number 62, Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones, the Aston Martin racers. They're closest to us at this end of the podium in third place. So it's McLaren and Aston Martin in GT4. And for David Patterson, he won't mind saying he's not the youngest in the field, and the fact he's up there on the top step of the podium and celebrates the fact here he is racing at the age of 62 and doing it beautifully well and winning. That says it all. Come and play in the British GT Championship if you think you're good enough. So that was race number 1 of the 2 we have here at Snetterton. Come back this afternoon, race number 2.